How's it going, everybody? It's Prod here and welcome back to another video, another Night Rain video. Finally, today I'm giving you guys my official review of the game because I feel like I've adequately played it enough now that I can give it a pretty good review and kind of get all I want to say out there about the game. So the very first thing that I do want to say is I enjoyed this game a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was kind of hesitant on if it was going to get boring after like 30, 40 hours or something like that. Because there is essentially one map, there's 8 bosses, and even though there is some randomization, it's not the best type of randomization. And I will get more into that here in a little bit. But so far, I'm about 80 hours into the game, and every single time that I play it, I end up having such a good time that I played for like 5, 6, 7 hours on stream. It's honestly been such a cool game to get back into the whole playing with viewers thing. I haven't really had a good chance to be able to do that and play with a lot of you guys, so that's been one of my favorite things about it. But the game just feels so fresh. I love what they did with the Souls formula, or with primarily the Elden Ring formula, increasing the speed, making it faster, improving some weapons, and while there isn't a ton of new things, and a lot of the things are obviously from Elden Ring, they almost feel better in this game. Like the movement, especially if you go back to Elden Ring now, will just feel so slow in comparison. I love the randomized concept of the game. I love the fact that you basically start off with a default weapon, and sure, you can actually make those default weapons better with the relics that you get throughout the game. And then while we're on the relics honestly, while there isn't a ton that are great, let's put it that way, like there's so many that you get that are just kind of like not even worth using, instantly are gonna go into the garbage can and get deleted. At least you do get something for it. You do get some of the merc back so that you can buy some of the skins. I do like the route they went for the skins. Initially, I remember in the beginning thinking they were a little bit too expensive, especially for some of the legendary skins being about 30,000 merc. But now I do understand that you actually do accumulate quite a bit whenever you are constantly selling a bunch of your relics and playing the game as well. But now, back onto the actual concept of the game, having to get random weapons, having to get loot, kill enemies, go to specific camps, go to castles, fight specific bosses to end up getting loot. I like the fact that you can't do everything. Well, you can if you're really, really good and you have like a really solid team, but most of the time, you're gonna kind of choose and decide what you want to do. For example, if you get a camp that is the boss's weakness, almost every single time you're going to want to hit up every single camp you can find for that specific weakness. Have it be lightning or holy or bleed. There is actually strategy to it, and it's not just running around like a headless chicken. You know, you get to choose if you want to go for a field boss, or if you want to go for a camp, or if you want to go for a heal. Most of the time you're not going to get to do everything, so kind of that constant thinking about what you want to do and deciding on the fly what you want to do, it's been such a fun time. Now, there are times where that can be kind of annoying, and a lot of the annoying moments come mainly when you're playing with random people. The game with a team of friends is beautiful. Honestly, it feels like the best version of a co-op for Souls games that I personally have ever done. I've played co-op on all the previous Souls games, and this one just feels the most fun, in my opinion. Or, of course, you can play it solo. After the rebalancing of the solo happened, I will say I feel like it happened maybe a little bit too early. I think that the game was fairly fresh, and a lot of people didn't like solo, but people didn't have the better relics, people didn't have map knowledge, people didn't have the wherewithal to build an actual strategy or a build. I feel like maybe it should have waited a little bit to kind of rebalance it towards now and how people are, you know, kind of around now rather than right in the beginning where everybody was really struggling to play solo. Because I will say, it used to be way more difficult. The scaling for the enemies and the bosses I think was done well. I feel like the wending grace and the amount of revives and heals you get maybe is a bit much. And I feel like you don't necessarily need that many, unless maybe you're fighting one of the hard mode bosses. But of course, that's unfair to put my own experience on everybody. You know, obviously I have thousands of hours on these games. Not everybody is going to be that experienced, so I understand why they do have to do that and why they kind of have to shift that focus of that balance more towards the the majority rather than the minority of people that are like very, very experienced with either this game or even Elden Ring itself. So I'm not really going to put too much blame on that. Now, playing with 2 other randoms is the other option, of course. I will say I'm very excited for duos to come out. I think that's probably going to be maybe the main thing I play, because duos I feel like is going to be right that perfect balance where things are going to be difficult but not too difficult. It's not always going to be like just absolutely destroying every single boss, which it kind of does feel like when you play with really good people. It's kind of a wash every single time, and that's why the aspect of playing with randoms has been pretty fun. I love the unpredictability of it. You never know when you're going to have somebody who's going to be really good, who is going to carry you, somebody who's going to be really reliable, or somebody who's going to be an idiot, go to the worst places. You're constantly going to be having to revive them, and it's going to be a big uphill battle. But sometimes when you've been just stomping every single day, every single fight, every single boss fight, having these moments where you have somebody that you constantly have to look after and revive and try to carry yourself, turns out to be some of the most fun matches that you can have. At least it has been for me personally. I can see how it might be frustrating if you maybe aren't the best or don't play the game a lot, and then these other people who you're constantly getting. I can absolutely see how that can be annoying, but the moments where I've had some of these randoms where it's been that uphill battle, for the most part, has been pretty damn fun. It is not like there haven't been some exceptions where it's just been annoying, but in reality, the game has been pretty entertaining, and for the most part, if you're good at the game, you can still kind of carry if you have 2 morons. Well, maybe 1 moron. Now, while we're on the subject of the game itself and the gameplay loop that you have in NIGHTREIGN, I will say I do wish there was a bit more randomization to it. I feel like while it is randomized to a certain extent, it kind of isn't. It plays it extremely safe when it comes to the bosses primarily. I wish that we had more randomization for that because, for example, anytime you're in a world and you end up getting the dragon that is mixed with the skeleton wolf, almost always you know you're gonna get Nameless King on day 2. If you end up getting hands on day 1, you almost always know you're gonna get Solimir Goylellen, aka Centipede Demon. Then if you get rats mixed with skeletons that do Deathblight, then you know you're gonna get Wormface. Basically what I mean is, as soon as you see kind of 1 or 2 enemies, you know, oh, this is gonna be the main day 1, day 2 boss. I wish there was more randomization to that. I wish that I didn't know who I was gonna get for the main boss. I wish I didn't know who I was gonna get, or sorry, for the main day 1 or day 2 boss. I wish that the enemies didn't exactly influence each other and there was more randomization to that. I would love to end up getting a bunch of little spiders, I kill the spiders, and then all of a sudden the Nameless King comes out. Instead of the Dark Souls 2 spider waifu. I mean, spider. Weapons as well. I truly have no idea why there isn't any Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, or even Shadow of the Erdtree weapons. Maybe it might have been a bit much. Could they still come in the future? God damn it, I hope so, man. Because it's just, you're sitting on this huge opportunity of so many weapons from all these games. You already have the bosses in there, you might as well add the weapons, right? I think that's been one of the things that I've wanted the most. More Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 bosses, weapons, maybe even regular enemies, right? Let's just say you go to a castle and instead of having the regular knights that you have now with their bows, you have silver knights all of a sudden, black knights. You know, how cool would it be to see more Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 enemies around camps and castles? I know they have this whole situation with like lore, right? But let's just throw the lore out the window. You know, have the main story be the stories that you have for the characters, which are actually very nice. Some of them are really freaking cool. I've had a really good time doing some of the stories like Iron Eye, getting their own unique endings. Have that be the lore, and the gameplay inside the world itself be just kind of fun, right? Like, you already have enemies like the Nameless King and some of these Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 bosses. Why not just kind of go crazy with it? I really hope that's the future we're heading to. Now onto the map itself. While the map does seem to kind of change a nice bit, especially moving around the camps and the places where you get the heals with the churches and everything, I'm very happy that that is not always the same. While it does have specific rotations, I do like the fact that those get randomized, and not only do they get randomized, you also have these shifting earth events that kind of change up the game. Some of them being really cool. I really love the volcano shifting earth. I love the Scarlet Rot area, even though the only thing that's kind of annoying about the Scarlet Rot one is that it, after day 2, when you're on day 2, it pushes every single boss. You almost like 100% have to go there. I do like the ones like the volcano where it's like, hey, if you want to go here, there's an extra church for a heal, and you can get a legendary weapon in there, basically for free. It almost gives you an extra thing to go, okay, for sure we're going to go in there, get ourselves a legendary weapon, so we know that maybe we won't have to go everywhere, and we can kind of focus and shift our focus to this specific spot in the shifting earth. I really like that aspect. I hope they add more, and I'm sure they will add more. But I almost would prefer a new map rather than more shifting earths. I think they're probably going to go more towards the shifting earth side because, yeah, it actually does change it up quite a bit. But a new map would be honestly really cool. And I know that, at least I think, they said they are going to be coming out with at least another map for future DLC. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to see how that ends up. Another thing I would honestly also really like is maybe a change up of bosses, you know, add different world bosses, switch them around, don't just have them be kind of like the same ones over and over. I would love to see a bigger variety. I would love to see them take some more enemies from Shadow of the Erdtree if you're just going to do Elden Ring. And maybe a bit of tuning on some of those damn world bosses. You know which ones. And now we are on to the new bosses. And I want to talk about them because there are 8 of them. And that's not even talking about the hard mode ones that have been coming out. I'll kind of get into that here in a moment. The first time that I fought a lot of these bosses, I was thinking to myself like, holy shit. Some of these are honestly some of the toughest bosses that I've fought in a Souls game or even within the Elden Ring world. As more time has passed on, I've kind of realized that that necessarily isn't the case. Again, it was just having not a lot of knowledge, not the best builds, didn't know how to play the game super well, but as time has passed, some of those bosses have kind of dwindled, in my opinion. For example, I remember Libra, the first time I fought him, I was like, I have no idea how I would ever beat this boss solo. And now cut to, 60, 70 hours later, and he just absolutely gets stomped on. But that's not to say these bosses are bad. At least, most of them. There's quite a few really amazing Night Lords in this. And I love the way some of them are designed. I love the fact that it's not just press R1. Sometimes they kind of feel like little mini raid bosses. Libra is a good example of that. I like whenever he transforms and gets himself into bubble and summons these shields that are around him. You can either just straight up ult him with one of the more powerful ults that do direct damage and that'll break him out of it, or if you don't have that, all you have to do is run around and kind of coordinate each a specific little shield thing that you destroy and that breaks him out of his bubble. I love that it's not just press R1 and you win. You actually have to kind of think a little bit about it. Breaking his bubble means a slightly weaker Libra with not as big powerful attacks. Even though he still gets pissed and goes stomp, 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 stomp. And it's almost always very rewarding when you're able to pull that off and actually get that big break. And it happens with a lot of these bosses. I love the fact that mainly for the non-hard mode bosses, at least it didn't work as much for Adele, but I love that their weakness actually matters. Having lightning for the Dark Drift Knight breaks him out of his stance. Having poison for Adele makes him puke and makes him slow down. It gives you a reason to go, okay, once I'm in the world, I know to go for these specific camps to try to find one of these weapons. While everything is random, it's cool that it kind of gives you a small objective to kind of strive for and to know what you want. Now, there are some bosses that are just straight up annoying when it comes to the Night Lords. Augur, not a big fan of him at all. Sentient Pest, really annoying, very spammy. And Sentient Pest hard mode is coming up. By the time this comes out, that's probably been out already, and we're gonna have to see how that one is, because the hard mode bosses so far have been pretty great, in my opinion. We've had Adele and we've had Dark Drift Knight. Adele, a chaotic beast. The fact that he had this crazy tornado, pulled you in even closer, made it so you couldn't run away, even though he still could run away, did way more damage, was more chaotic in my opinion, was a wild change. So before Dark Drift Knight came out, I thought, man, this guy is going to be absolutely ridiculous, insanely spammy, and then he comes out and he ends up becoming my favorite boss in the whole game. Hard mode Dark Drift Knight kind of showed me that hard mode doesn't just have to be like, add a shit ton of things that are way more spammy. Because in my opinion, he has a lot of moves that are very much classic, reminds me of Dark Souls 3 type of moves. When he did his twin blade attack that is double attack and then he jumps up and then lands. If you time it beautifully every single time, you'll always dodge it, easy to dodge. You have time to punish and it's not just absolute madness, you don't know when you're supposed to attack. That boss just flows so freaking beautifully. I absolutely love it. And I hope they do that same thing with Sentient Pest and make him actually a more rewarding boss than kind of just more spam and more annoying nonsense. But I've loved what they've been doing so far with these hard mode bosses. These updates are going to continue, and I can see some of the future Night Lords being ridiculous. Heal Store is still one I struggle with, to be honest. I need to play him more. Legitimately, I need to play him more and just kind of learn him and like take a whole day just to fight him and play him, just to kind of get his moves into my mind and know how to fight him better. It would be cool if they had maybe like a training mode where they had a version of them where you can just straight up practice them and fight. But I understand maybe that would take the whole fun out of the whole aspect of making these the big bosses that you have to strive for, that you have to work for to defeat and fight. I know that will throw a lot of people off, and their first thought will be like, oh, I gotta go through 40 minutes again to end up fighting this boss. And I know it makes it even more painful when you die, but I guess that's what makes the defeat of them even more special. And that's why I love these hard mode bosses, because it's just, they're coming out right at the perfect time when people are getting used to the game, and some people are just getting absolutely wrecked by these new bosses, and it's fantastic, and it's the same thing has happened to me. I hope they keep it up, and I hope they don't take too much of a break between these first three and the next three, and I hope that it's consistent, because that just keeps new content coming out, keeps people coming back, keeps people wanting to play, and it's been a fantastic time so far. But overall, NIGHTREIGN as a whole has been fun, has been challenging. It's been a nice change of pace from Elden Ring's PvE, and while I miss PvP, I don't think it would work well in this game. But it's been fun to kind of join together with a lot of people that I would probably invade in this game and be on the opposite side, right? Be on the side where I have to help them and find weapons for them and give them weapons and sacrifice. Maybe sometimes I see a weapon that's really good for like a Iron Eye that has really good extra bow damage, so I decide to get that for him or something like that, you know. It's been cool. The camaraderie of the game has been honestly pretty damn wholesome for a lot of people. I love the memes that have come out of it with some of the characters like Revenant. And while I do wish the game had a little bit more randomness to it, and I feel like they did play it a bit safe, and maybe not enough enemy variety when it comes to some of the bosses in day 1 or day 2, I will gladly give Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN an 8.5 out of 10, and then probably whenever I play with friends, a 9, because that experience is absolutely raised up whenever I get a chance to play with Lost or Chase or Oro or some of the boys, and even meeting new people that I've never talked to before. But that is my review for Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN. Can't wait to see what some of the future bosses, some of the future enemies, weapons, and hopefully another future world, and hopefully another future map as well, brings to the game. Will people still be playing it in about 6 months? Honestly, it's very content dependent. It's dependent entirely on them. And maybe we might revisit this in about 6 months and talk about it again, but for now, that is my review of the game. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it though. Negative or positive, I'd love to hear it. Having good conversations is always nice. Don't just, go, it's shit, I don't like it because it's shit. that's not constructive criticism, right? Explain why you think it's bad. I think a lot of people, you know, seem to kind of be hating on the game just to hate on it. But for $40, the game is priced extremely well, in my opinion. There's games that come out now that are $70 and are dog shit. So when you have a game like NIGHTREIGN that is fantastic and is only $40, like, this shit is not going to happen within the next couple of years, guys. Every game from now on is going to be $70, $80. So while you have a game like this, you know, I think a lot of people are going to look back on a game like NIGHTREIGN that is this nicely priced and be like, fuck, we had it good. We had it good back in the day, before those $80 Nintendo games came out. But thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, a like is very much appreciated. Thank you so much if you do leave a like. It really always does help out the channel, and I appreciate it very, very much. Have yourselves a good one. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.